The presidential campaign came down to this today, a question one candidate wouldn't answer and a question the other candidate couldn't answer. John McCain couldn't answer a question most Americans would find simple.
Just as Obama has begun to stress a more populist message, he heard news today of an inadvertent and totally unexpected assist in making his point from John McCain, in McCain's response to a simple question.
How many houses do you and Mrs. McCain have? I think I'll have my staff get to you. I'll tell you about it.
When McCain's staff got back, they said the number was at least 4 homes. But it turns out the real number, according to an independent watchdog project, is at least 7 homes. Worth in the neighborhood of $13 million, they are scattered from coast to coast. And they put McCain, whose wife inherited a $100 million fortune, well ahead of past chief executives in the private residential sweepstakes. Obama jumped on McCain's remarks.
If you don't know how many houses you have, then it's not surprising that you might think the economy was fundamentally strong.
A national ad on McCain's comment was churned out in record time.
7 houses. And here's one house America can't afford to let John McCain move into.
McCain's housing advantage could complicate attempts to cast Obama, who owns $1 million home in Chicago himself, as an out-of-touch, arugula eating elitist. The McCain campaign, caught flat-footed by their candidate's remark and fighting to get the news media onto a different story, fired up its own rapid response ad suggesting Obama purchased his home in a deal with a shady Chicago influence peddler.
Housing problem.
What's more, argued McCain's people, Obama made $4 million last year and is in no position to complain about McCain's wealth, except that even by McCain's own definition, $4 million would not make Obama rich.
Define rich.
How about $5 million?
Obvious concern to Republicans is that the discussion of McCain's wealth comes as many voters are dealing with foreclosures and high gasoline prices.
In response to a question about how many houses he owns, he didn't answer. The actual answer is a sizable number, and so the Obama campaign has seized on it. There are indications we'll be hearing a lot more about this starting right about now. NBC's Lee Cowan is with the campaign in Chesapeake, Virginia tonight. Lee, good evening.
Well, Brian, the senator's answer is actually pretty surprising. He essentially said that he didn't know how many homes he and his wife Cindy actually owned, and that was an answer the Obama campaign quickly predicted that working class, middle class families would have a pretty tough time understanding.
It's John McCain's personal housing crisis. During an interview with Politico.com, he seemed not to be sure just how many homes he and his wife actually own.
How many houses do you and Mrs. McCain have? I think I'll have my staff get to you. I'll tell you about it. How many of them further? I'll have them get to you.
In fact, he and his wife Cindy own at least 7 properties in 3 states, including the one in Sedona, Arizona, where he's currently on vacation. For Barack Obama today in Virginia, it was all too good to resist.
If you don't know how many houses you have, then it's not surprising that you might think the economy was fundamentally strong. But if you're like me and you got 1 house, or you were like the millions of people who are struggling right now to keep up with their mortgage so they don't lose their home, you might have a different perspective.
His staff jumped into action too, releasing a hurriedly produced TV ad entitled 7, criticizing McCain as an elitist.
And here's one house America can't afford to let John McCain move into.
Time and again, voters have said the economy is the top issue on their minds. But they might not have in mind the economic issue that was debated by John McCain and Barack Obama today. The two got into a dispute about which of them is richer. ABC's Jake Tapper is with Obama in Chesapeake, Virginia.
John McCain was asked a simple question by reporters from Politico.
How many houses do you and Mrs. McCain have? I think I'll have my staff get to you. I'll tell you about it. How many of them further? I'll have them get to you.
In Chester, Virginia this morning, Barack Obama pounced.
True quote. I'm not sure. I'll have to check with my staff. So they asked his staff, and he said, at least 4. at least 4.
The answer is actually 9 houses on 7 properties. McCain, his wife Cindy, and her family trust own property in Sedona, Arizona with 3 houses on it, 2 beachfront condominiums in Coronado, California, 1 condo in Phoenix, 1 in Arlington, Virginia, 1 house in La Jolla, California where a relative lives, and a condo in Phoenix where their daughter lives. This is not what McCain wants to be talking about. Obama and the Democrats smell blood in the water, and they're using the quote to paint McCain as out of touch.
If you don't know how many houses you have, then it's not surprising that you might think the economy was fundamentally strong. But if you're like me and you got 1 house, or you were like the millions of people who are struggling right now to keep up with their mortgage so they don't lose their home, you might have a different perspective.
Obama also launched a negative TV ad.
7 houses. And here's one house America can't afford to let John McCain move in.